Good morning YouTube, my name is Amisbro. For this video we are doing episode 29 of the anime review series. Yes, we're almost at episode 30. For this one we are doing the anime Shonen Hollywood. This review is going to cover both 49 and Holly stage for 50. And it's interesting because the anime is actually taking place 15 years after a novel of the same name. And here is the plot for that. So follow along with me. The plot for the novel goes, 32-year-old Koji Sakuragi sees an ad that is scouting for young male singers to be part of a new group called Shonen Hollywood. Having once dreamed of being an idol himself, Koji changes his name to Tsuyoshi Haragi and lies about being 17 in order to get in and study at a well-known theater in Shinjuku called Hollywood Tokyo, where the group will grow and develop their talents. Okay. Now, the series itself that we are dealing with takes place 15 years after the novel. So everything I just told you, you probably didn't know if you didn't get a chance to read it, because I'm almost positive, somebody will correct me probably, that the novel never made it to the US. Okay? Now then, the characters that we will be dealing with are as follows. Kakeru Kazumi, Ikuma Araki, Kira Seiki, Daiki Tomi, and Shun Mayama. Those are your 5 main characters. And here's what's interesting about them. 2 of them you might know if you've watched either of the following. You don't know Paran-sama, Kuroko's Basketball, or Bakamatsu Rock. Why do I say that? Because of the voice actors. Excuse me. Daiki Tomi is voiced by Shota Aoi. Or for those of you who've watched Yutapuri, I'm Makai's. Then you have Shun Mayama. Well, he's voiced by Kensho Ono, who voiced Tetsuya Kuroko in Kuroko's Basketball. He also voiced a character in Bakamatsu Rock, and his name presently escapes me at this time. I feel like an idiot. However, those aren't the only characters to have recognizable voice actors. If we go down even further, the president is voiced by Daisuke Namikawa. Well, why does that name ring a bell? Well, have you seen Brothers Conflict? If you have, then you know that Daisuke actually voiced Iroi Asahina in that anime. And lastly, but certainly not least, Kozuki Toriumi. Now, why would that name ring a bell? Well, if you listen to the voice of the character that he plays in this series, which is Shima Hayamizu, you would know that that is Cecil Ajima's voice actor from Yutapuri. So, a lot of tie-ins here. Now, I want to talk about the normal things we talk about with this review. One is the story, one is the animation, one is the character development and plot development. I want to talk about the animation first because it is actually really well done. The animation studio responsible for that is a group called Zex. I believe it's pronounced Zex. Zexecs. They did a really good job with animating the characters and the studio and everything. They did a really good job in that. However, I have some issues, not with the characters necessarily, although there is some development issues with them, I think. But my main issue is with the way they actually did the story. Alright, one second. Alright. It's probably not fair to compare this show to Udapri, but we're going to. Here's why. When you watch Udapri, and we're currently in season 3, you notice that every episode, okay, from episode 1 to episode 13, tells you some kind of story. And every episode tells you the story of a character. You know this. There's virtually no deviations at all. They know they have 13 episodes to get their job done, and they don't mess around with it. This season, they're actually giving more time to the Quartet Night, as well as starters like normal in Udapri. This series, they did something a little bit different. See, they established the group early, Shonen Hollywood, okay? And the president tells them, you're going to learn this song. He tells them that at the very beginning of the show. So you're thinking, so the whole series is based around them really starting to try and become Shonen Hollywood. Well, it kind of is, but the thing is, they don't do, in my personal opinion, the best job that they could have. Oh, and trust me, it starts to get better towards the very end of the series, but there's a lot of issues I had with it. There were issues with, how do I do this? Okay. In season 1, they actually had to do a play because the president felt they weren't able to do a concert yet. Okay. So they do an entire play called Air Boys, the 5 members of the squad of the theater troupe, because that's what Shonen Hollywood actually was. Should mention that. Shonen Hollywood is actually a theater troupe, kind of something to the akin of, say, AKB48. You know how AKB48, right? Has their own theater in Akihabara. Well, that's kind of what this deal is here. So, rather than have them do a concert, they wanted to test them by having them do a play. So you're thinking, well, all 5 of them are going to have a vocal part. No, one of them actually was reduced to just basically going, mm-hmm, or making some type of verbal agreement or disagreement, but not really saying yes or no. They have to go, mm-hmm, uh-huh, mm-mm. And only once did they actually get a part, and that was when they had to ad-lib something because one of the characters got stuck. Okay? So that happened. That was the entire episode. Okay, that one I may be able to forgive a little bit easier, mainly because they wanted to, I guess, really see if they could do some type of stage show. And they were able to do it. Okay, fine. But then there was an episode that came in season 2, which literally frustrated me. Okay? Instead of, how do I explain this? I don't need to see an OVA in the middle of a season. And I felt that when they did the one for Daiki, I believed that is what they kind of did. And I was kind of like sitting there watching it going, Why are you doing this episode now? Like, literally, the bulk of the episode was the Shonen Hollywood boys were gathering around a TV and they were going to watch Daruki's performance for a drama which he was shooting. And the end of the episode is actually kind of funny because one of them, I want to say it was Maki. He goes, "You better get on that drama again." That was actually kind of funny. But at the same time, I sat there and like, why did you do this for an episode? Like, to me, it could have been more or less been an OVA. Maybe I'm being a little too critical on that part. But it didn't feel like, until you got to the end of the second season, and effectively the series, it didn't feel like they were really driving towards something. Like, you knew that there was that Christmas show coming. Alright, cool. Or the Christmas Eve show. That is significant only because it was around Christmas Eve when the original members of the group actually disbanded. And see, the president is actually one of them. So, you do get to see some of the members of the original Shonen Hollywood, but what was funny was, like, how do I explain this? They did this thing where Daiki met Minoru, the original Tommy from the original Shonen Hollywood. Alright, cool. Well, he mentions the other members of the group. Unless you literally wrote the names down, you didn't know who any of them were or what their occupation was, because in some cases they didn't introduce them to you. Now, I have to be fair. They introduced him. They did eventually show Shima, who I wanted to punch in the throat. Ren they did. Ryu they did. The one they actually didn't really show, and of course you know the president, but the one they didn't introduce really until later, and that was through Tessie, the assistant to the president. We didn't find out later that was Daichi. Okay? But see, every one of them has a different occupation now than what they originally did. She was a prick, by the way. I have to say this now. I didn't like him. He came off, like, and I understand what his goal was, but he came off as such a jerk that I could not stand it. I could not take him. I just really, I couldn't embrace him. And maybe that was the point. Maybe he was supposed to be that way, so that you really didn't like him, and you wanted to see how the boys reacted when he threatens to take away what they had been working with, which was he was going to demolish the theater. He was going to basically strip them of their name, and they had threatened to disband on the day of the Christmas Eve concert, which was like the 1 year anniversary or whatever of when the original group disbanded. Well, when we got to this point, I was feeling a little bit drained, only because I had watched enough episodes that kind of left me going high, low, high, low, high, low. I didn't, but not in the sense of, man, that was a really good episode. In the sense of, God, hey, or you know, you wanted to be emotionally invested, but there were times when you're watching it, and I was watching enough episodes, and I was just going, what am I doing here? And season 1 was probably the single most frustrating, because it started off as such a positive, and then it just started to peter out by like episode 6. Season 2 became a problem because I wanted to become invested, but I couldn't because I knew how season 1 started and ended. Yes, I did get invested towards the end, emotionally invested, but I should have been able to feel that way when it comes to the whole of the series, and I didn't feel that. There was 26 episodes, but I didn't really feel like it was 26 really well written episodes. You know what I'm saying? It also didn't help that there would be times when they would have episodes that didn't have the traditional open. Like, there was an episode early in season 2, Holly Stage for 50, where they skipped the regular open, so you almost thought it's the series finale, even though you knew you had like 7 or 8 episodes left to go. That kind of threw you off. I don't know if they just didn't have time to animate it or what, but when you skipped the open, the traditional open, around the middle of a season, that's kind of weird. Now I know what you're going to tell me. Well, Kuroko's Basketball just did that for season 3. Okay, yeah, they did. The difference there was they're transitioning from the standard arc that we were been used to going into the Teiko arc, which we're currently in, which we're going through Teiko Middle School. That was different. What was the excuse for doing it here? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. Some people say I'm harping on that a little too much, but that's just me. Because of the way they wrote the story and because of the way things happened, it was hard to really get a good idea for the story flow to me, and it was really hard to get invested in the characters and see their development. Especially when you have a character like, say, Kakaru, whose family didn't really help because the sister was less than supportive, and he at times at one point he was at odds with his mother because she was being supportive, but he was kind of like resisting her from going to the concerts. Do you see what I'm saying? There was so many issues with character development and the plot development at times that I was literally trying to understand what were you trying to get me to be invested in. Do you know what I'm saying? So this brings me to the actual verdict. Where do I look? Where do I see this series? Well, I can't give it an actual pass because there was just so many problems with the way they wrote the story out and was developing it. At least with Udapri, again, I have to bring that series up. You know they tell you the end goal for a season in episode 1, and the goal is from that point. Okay. Once you get here, you have to get to here, and they somehow managed to do it brilliantly to the point where by the time you get to episode 12 and 13, you really got invested. You've gotten attached. You want to see what happens. Doesn't happen in Shonen Hollywood. And maybe if I wasn't watching Udapri, this would be less of an egregious problem, but it's a big one. And for that reason, I have to say, I cannot recommend this series. I want to, but I can't. So, on that note, I hope you take care of yourself. I will talk to you all again on Wednesday when we're seeing the blue sky blue. It'll be La Corda del Oro time, blue sky, on Wednesday. You take care, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.